this generation, because you said it's not that type of time right now, 2025, this era, it's not that time where we just don't have a guy who's just going to dominate it. Well, is that because this era is not strong enough, or is it because it's stronger than all the other eras? Like what are we really seeing here compared to the past?
Well, I think, especially with something like sprinting, no one's going to run the 100 in 1 second, right? So eventually the times are going to kind of level out, and then all the people are going to get closer to the fastest that a human can go. So across the board, there's going to be a lot of people that can run similar times. It's just going to come down to who's going to compete the best. So I think that's what's happening right now, is that we're reaching the peak of human capabilities, even though we're not close to 9.58, but that's like another world. But 9.7 is roughly around where the body is going to explode, right? And I think that we're just seeing the leveling out. We're seeing a bunch of guys that are able to do that. So we're going to see shifting of winners and losers, and there's not necessarily going to be dominance per se, unless it comes down to just who competes the best.
Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are. I mean, well, both of y'all for that matter, but I'm first going to throw this out. I really believe, after all the evidence we have, 9.76 is basically the line.
Yeah,
and
I say
that's the line because no one's gone faster than that since Bolt left.
Right.
Now, we could speculate what those reasons are, but I'm like, look, at this point, if you are a fan and you want to see fast times, and I said it before about Kishane, but I think that's why we're fascinated about him, because he was the latest to give us the fast time. We're hoping for 9.6 anything. That's what people are hoping to see. 9.6 anything. Just let 9.63 get that out of your mind. I said 9.6 anything. Because those are times that at least a human being who wasn't named Bolt ran. Under any conditions.
Right.
Under any conditions, no one has ever run under 9.65 who wasn't Bolt. That's scary. With all these crazy wins we be seeing, we still have never even seen under those circumstances anybody do it. But then it goes back to the eras. So I'm like, okay, is there another era, not this one, that you would say has been like a stretch of like these guys were better than what the field is now? Because the field now is Noah, Kishane. Let's go through the Olympic final. Noah, Kishane,
Fred, Akani, Marcel, Letsile, Kenny, and Oblique. I think the only comparable, if you're talking about this era, because the Bolt era was on paper the best, right? You literally have the top 5 guys in history. But I would go to the 90s as a semi-comparable era. Going back to Donovan Bailey, you had Otto Bolding, you had Frankie Fredericks, you had Bernie Surin, you had Leroy Burrell a little bit earlier. You had a lot of guys who were kind of like, not necessarily changing hands, but like were very competitive. Donovan Bailey was not the most dominant guy on the circuit across the board. He came up at championships. Frankie Fredericks was always there.
Right.
You had Linford Christie, was always like, you had a lot of guys who were like very competitive, running 9.9s, 9.8s, That's what I would maybe compare this to.
I would say that I would say I'd compare it to that too. The only difference I would say is that they don't line up as frequently together as back then.
It's
Back then they used to line up a lot more frequently.
All the time.
But as far as the parity and the battling and where the guys actually are level-wise, I would say it would be similar.
Well, so then, all right, knowing that the Bolt era was on paper, much better, but Bolt was always on top outside of whatever, 1 or 2 races he lost, whatever. Is this a better generation of athletes to watch? Because we don't know who's actually going to win.
But let's unpack that, because we need to be giving the Bolt era their status, and we ain't even nobody questioning it. We got to actually have the conversation. Was it really the best? Remove Bolt for a moment. What was left?
Johan Blake, Tyson Gay, Asaf Powell, Justin
So
Gatlin.
Johan and Tyson.
Even Nesta Carter ran 9.7. Like, you had a lot of
Wait.
guys.
So we talking about the people who.
Nesta Carter has a medal.
There's some names,
all those guys have medals.
Okay, so wait.
There's some
Okay.
names,
I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. I'm gonna do it because I did a video on this a while ago. When we look at the 100, I did a list and did a breakdown of the fastest times we've ever seen, the men who put them down, but took everybody who had a suspension, an actual suspension, off that list.
Right.
Hey, you can feel how you want to feel about it, but I said if you actually got suspended, where you had to sit out time from competition, we will now take you off this list.
Okay.
So if you remove that, because the card is gone.
I mean,
No shade. God bless.
I don't think
Wish them the best.
I don't think they should be gone though, because we're talking about the race and the battling. That doesn't ruin the race
okay,
for
so
me.
if it-
I won't be like,
if it-
well, this
okay.
race sucks because that.
What about the
person
rate?
was awesome.
People whose results are scrubbed? You don't.
I wouldn't scrub it.
Oh, okay.
Because
see,
I'm
not
saying
with
what
you
I
on
see
that.
is what I saw.
If it's
like,
been officially
Wait,
taken off,
that if it's taken off, I mean,
if they took your medal back,
if it's taken off in the books, it doesn't count anymore, right?
Yeah, like,
but as
but
far as
you
what we
just
saw,
disqualified.
as far as what we saw, and as far as
if you go
the
back,
actual race,
that.
the way it works for history is when you go look at official results, they literally change the results and it says disqualified.
I think one of
history
the
for me is what I saw.
one of the issues is that
That's my
2012,
history.
where Tyson Gay's technically his time is gone from
Right.
that race, but people still remember that race of like.
Of course.
Yeah, that's where I
But
can
you see
understand
what I'm
that,
saying?
but
It's an actual debate, though.
It's an aspect.
Because if you're correct, if you're right, then it's almost like you can kind of get away with whatever. Because if we're gonna just remember you on the legacy and you still get to keep the checks, you just kind of run the risk. So it's like, to me, if it went off the books, it's off the books.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay. In 1988, in that 100-meter final, right? If you're Carl Lewis, are you going to show people that footage and say, "This is my Olympic champion race"?
No.
Right. So
that's crazy.
history is what we saw. We saw Ben miles in front of him, and we saw that he dominated that race. And if we're just going off of the event, the moment, the feat.
You got a response?
Yeah,
I already
yeah.
got mine prepared.
I'm just saying that is what we saw.
It makes sense, but the only problem I have with that is like Ben was like out there. He was so out there, and like it's not like, again, Tyson Gay in 2012, he didn't even medal, so it was like down the path. It's like Ben was like gone, and he was like, what was it, like the day after or within the week he got suspended.
Right.
So that is a different situation. Yes, Carl Lewis is not going to be showing that footage.
Right.
But I think that is such a different situation.
But we
It's
can't
not- I don't
erase what
think
we
it's
saw.
that much
All
of a
I'm trying to say is we can't erase what we saw.
I mean, you're right. I agree. We
Right.
can't erase what we saw.
Right.
But my response, which is similar to what you said already. I already said it on camera. I'll just say it again. He ran 9.79, and it seemed too good to be true because it was too good to be true. And then we waited for the next decade for somebody, anybody to run 9.7 anything, and nobody could pull it off. And we just had to
Right.
get used to watching 9.8. We just had to get used to it.
Right.
So
I'd rather remember what I saw.
I mean,
As
well,
opposed to hold on to, well, if we take it out, this is
because
actually
I
what
think,
happened.
because see, the chasing of the clock is what I think. Because see, when we compare eras, there's different ways to do it, but the clock I think gets in our way because what happens is we lose the element of competition.
Exactly.
In the chase of a clock, and there's a bunch of different ways to reach the clock. That's why when you see evidence that, let's just be 100% real about it. This is how my brain processes the history. Again, we'll start from Ben Johnson. Super fast history lesson. I might be able to do it in 10 to 15 seconds. Ben Johnson, too good to be true. A decade, 9.8. Then we finally made our way to 9.79. A bunch of dudes run 9.7 and it doesn't stay on the boards. Powell stays on the boards but did serve a suspension. And then Bolt shows up. He runs the times that we've never seen before. He leaves. He took a few people with him and some of them did sit up some time out. They did.
But they kept their times.
They kept their time, but they did sit some
Except
time
Tyson
out.
once, but yeah.
And now, nobody can go faster than 9.76. Like, period. We've had almost a decade now. We're getting close to a decade, but we've never seen it. And this is a super spike era. We got new technology. We got Normatech, everything else. And nobody going 9.76. I'm starting to think that's what people can do.
See, okay, and that was a good breakdown. But let's just look, because it's so complicated, I like to just look at what we saw. That's what I'm saying. A very good breakdown, but it is complicated. So what we saw, let's take the clock away. Let's imagine there was no clock in that 88 race. Was that still a good race?
I mean, it was a blowout.
I mean, it was a blowout.
Yeah, but
So I would say no. It would be like an NBA Finals that was swept.
right, and I do think a
That was
lot
this
of
week.
Yeah, basically.
right, and I do think less emphasis needs to be put on the actual times. The times are a good measuring stick to know what fast is, right?
Yeah.
But we know all these guys are fast.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like you can look at a race and think it's a bad race just because it was slow. What if it might have been raining? It might have been some headwinds. It might have been whatever. But the battle is still the battle. The people are still the people. So that's what we need to kind of target in on, because neither of you could tell me Lewis Hamilton's fastest lap time in Monaco. You just know he's fast, right? They don't care about the times. It's just, you know that these guys, you know these sprinters are fast.
That's true. And 2024 was a good example of that. Like, you can, actually the time wasn't even relevant to a degree at the Olympic Games, but we just saw an entire sweep.
It was just it was a really good race.
And that gave people the impression that, was that better than 2012, where we had crazy fast times,
Right.
but the competition is actually what matters.
From a race standpoint, 2024 was better.
But Bolt is not. I agree. I love 2024 for what it was.
That's
But
taking
Bolt's
away the clock
greatness-
and the figures. The
Because
figures.
see, like Bolt's greatness is the gold standard, literally, and then everything gets measured off of that.
Right.
And it's just like what Jordan did to basketball, where everyone's from now on is being held to a particular. We saw this and we charted it. So when you look at what his report is, you could slice it both ways. It's not just the clock; it's the gold standard. It's that when he was in a race, he said it himself. He's like, those last 10 to 15 meters, if you ain't got me by now, it's over, man. Like if you don't have me, like have me, it's over. Cause I'm about to, in like a few strides, we done. It's a wrap. And everybody came to these races trying to do stuff they never did, and nobody could pull it off. It was essentially bulletproof for 8 straight years. So when we start coming out with moral victories on guys who get in second, he'll be ready for Worlds, he's warming up. Try selling that to the fans. I'm going to speak up for them because I think I understand how they think. They can't process that foolishness.
Of course not.
Well, they can process dominance.
Right.
Even if we took the clock away, I can process dominance.
Right.
I can't process he warming up, he preparing.
Thank you.
We can't do that.
No.
We need to be able to. And I just say build the system where you have to win your way to the top,
Right.
instead of like a time over here, a time over there, a trial over here, and then we run a prelim with high school and college kids, and now I'm in a final. And that's for the record. At Worlds, we got high school and college kids who are there, and then go back. There are kids who are juniors in college right now who are at Worlds in the 2022 season, in the semifinals of 100. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is real. No shade to them. It's just that's what the product actually is. We need to compete our way to the top. And I think that would even make these debates even easier. But one thing that we do know is, did anybody actually think that Bolt was going down during those 8 years in a race that mattered? Nobody does.
No.
2015 was the closest.
So
I did think 2015 he was going to lose.
I mean, yeah, on the way to the line, and then that last, I think.
And
that's-
even through the season, he just didn't.
that was
look
the
ready.
closest.
Yeah.
But in general, it's like,
In general, I see what you're saying, though.
So it's
But-
like era to era. I mean,
And it comes down to what you like.
So-
Do you like seeing someone dominate, or do you like seeing people battling?
I mean, the 90s. I mean, so you say the 90s is it?
is the most comparable to what we're seeing now, because you're seeing competition head to head, like, well, not as much head to head, but at least like the times, it's like you don't know who's going to necessarily
When you
win.
say the
That's
Bolt
it.
era, do you mean 08 to 2012? Or do you mean like all the way down to 2016?
2016, because Gatlin,
So 12 to 16, you're counting all of that as like an
I'm
8-year
counting
stretch?
2008 all the way to 2016, because Gatlin, and you can go to 2017 if you want, but like I just need to include Gatlin, because Gatlin came back in 2010, 2011, and he's part of the Bolt era to me.
Okay.
So you can even go back to 2007
And
if you want with Tyson
2012
Gay.
is the height of that era?
It's
Like-
the height, yeah.
Like if we were charting it on a graph, that was the peak, 2012.
Essentially,
2012.
I would say around there.
Well, I think the peak would be 09. But
Well,
2012.
that was his peak.
You mean the era?
The era,
not
like,
Bolt's
I'm talking
era.
about- We're talking about
The
the
entire era.
Oh yeah.
2012 about the
So
peak.
2012 was
Yeah,
when
yeah.
the group got the
Yeah,
closest
yeah,
to like,
yeah,
we're all
yeah,
coming
yeah.
with big guns.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're going to see who has the biggest, even though we know it's him.
Yeah.
Like
He owned that era, man.
So, I'm at, well.
We're not going to get that again though
But
for
the-
a while.
If Noah wins this year in the Worlds, it's related to this, because we're talking eras.
Mm-hmm.
In this era, a highly competitive era, let's just play it, because it's realistic, it's possible he could win. Like, it's not totally out of the realm of possibility. It's actually very much so in. If he does win the world in the 100 again, could we now say he is officially the king of this era? Three in a row?
Yeah, he would.
You went back to back to back.
And I'll take it a step further. If he does that, he's in the GOAT discussion.
GOAT discussion for the 100?
Meaning, like, he's on the Mount Rushmore? That's what you're trying to say?
He's in the. What's up? How are you? That's a legend. That's a legend right there. Gwen Torrance, everybody.
GOAT discussion.
Discussion.
What does that mean?
Like, if you're talking about the best 100-meter sprinters ever,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
he's in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Discussion.
That's fair.
Discussion. Chill out. Relax.
That's why I wanted clarity because it's like
the discussion.
Yeah.
And because even me this year, I'm kind of doubting he'll be able to do it, right? But he always rectifies doubts.
He does.
He has rectified my doubts time after time after time, right? Which is commendable, right?
It's when you
If he
stop
does it
it's when
again-
you stop betting against people because you realize, like, you know what? If I were the betting man, I would lose a lot of money.
Yo, Noah does his thing, yo. He does. and if he does this again, especially with his preparation this year, like, he's not really doing nothing. Like, for him to come and do it again this year,
It would kind of be crazy.
it would be madness, right?
Yeah.
But
He might be having some really high quality practices we ain't seeing. Because I'm tired of watching people practice when they getting paid.
I don't see. But I just want to see him out there,
You
man.
just want to see him compete.
And I don't think that that's throwing shade at all. I just want to see him out there.
Yeah.
And that's
If the system
a
was
compliment.
different, if the system were different, then they'd be out there. The
Yeah.
system is the races are warm ups, and then I go over there.
look
And,
at what Bolt did
because you
the
don't
second
think
half of his
NBA, they
career.
compete because they have to.
Yeah.
That's why the NBA put the play in. Again, talk about how a league is engineered. The play-in was put in because you literally had teams, and the players on those teams who started coasting. They thought, or they would look at the schedule and say, "Oh, we could take days off, load management, right? Because we don't need this game. We got enough wins where it's okay. So we could. Oh, you could take 15 games off just because of rest. Basically, throw away those games." And be like, well, we gonna make the playoffs anyway because of how it was set up. That was a bad product. And the fans didn't like it. And the media didn't like it.
Of course.
So as a result, they said, you know what? We need to literally change the rules since y'all won't play all these games like they matter. And then guess what happened? They had, this year, Western Conference, you get all the way down to the last game of the season. Teams 3, or like 3, 4, all the way through like 8, 9, 10 are playing for like actual playoff seeding. They're playing for who's gonna have home court and whatever. So now you're playing game 82 like it matters. They just changed the rule. So all we gotta do is just flip the system.
exactly.
And if the system gets flipped, then all of a sudden they have to run. Because again, as long as they're climbing a mountain, and some people have different ways they get on that mountain, but you can't get to the top if you don't win your way to the top.
Exactly.
So, all right, so let me just circle back so like kind of bring this together because I just want to clarify your Noah GOAT discussion. 'Cause I just want to make sure we're clear. Obviously, Bolt, Carl Lewis, Maurice Greene, Justin Gatlin. Like, these are guys who have won Olympics and at least 2 gold medals at Worlds. Are we saying that Noah is he's getting in that conversation or is ahead of any of those guys if he wins this year?
If he wins this year,
And we're only talking about the 100.
he would be ahead of a couple of those names you just named.
Who's a couple? I named 4 people. Like, let's be clear. I named Bolt, Carl Lewis,
He'd be ahead of Carl.
Carl Lewis.
He'd be ahead of Carl.
He'd be ahead of Carl Lewis.
Yeah.
The complicated thing about
If you give Noah,
well, Carl Lewis had a world record.
Carl Lewis had multiple world records.
Carl Lewis had a world record when the world record.
He was the first
It
person.
wasn't really the world record.
No.
Show me the highlight. Show me the highlight. Show me the highlight. Anybody watch the highlight will be like, oh, he set the world record, but
No.
who is that guy?
No. You're talking about one race. Carl Lewis set the world record multiple times.
Okay, he did it in Tokyo as well in 91.
91.
Okay.
He was the first person to break 9.9. And he has 2 Olympic golds, even if one of them is like
Okay,
he's.
but world record can't be a barometer now because the world record is the
No,
crazy
it-
place.
But he has
it's
the
an extra
medals.
thing.
He has
It's just
3
like-
gold
we-
medals.
It's an extra thing.
Wait, what, in the Olympics?
At the
world
world
record is-
champs.
Okay, so Noah would have,
He would have 2,
he would have 2.
and he'd have 1 Olympic gold.
He'd have 1 Olympic gold, right? In an era that's much more competitive.
What?
Much more competitive than when who's competitive back when Carl was running? It was just
Ben Johnson.
That was it.
Leroy Burrell.
No.
Linford Christie. Come on.
They weren't on the level like
Well,
these guys. There's parity. We don't know what's gonna happen with these guys.
I'm not
he was
sure
better.
I'm not sure where I stand, but I will say the thing about Carl Lewis, which is awkward, is that he was a true track and field athlete. So his greatness is because he was so great across the board.
That's
So
even
when
to
we started
Morgan's credit.
nailing him down to, but see, the thing is, unfortunately, the sport has not become.
But
track
we're looking
and
at
field
him
in
as an
recent memory.
athlete. If we're looking at him as an athlete, we have to look at Noah as an athlete too.
Okay,
And
what's he
Noah-
doing?
Well, he
Look,
got
like-
the American record in the 200.
Okay.
He's won the 200 how many
No,
times at Worlds?
Okay.
Dominated it. He's
Like, I'm
dominated.
not
He's
going
dominated.
down a path of Carl Lewis versus Noah Lyles as an athlete.
I'm just saying, if it happens, if it
100%
happens,
Team Carl.
I'm just saying it becomes a debate if he wins this year. It's not a debate right now.
He can win as much as he wants this year, and I'm still taking Carl as an
No,
athlete.
no, you can't look at Carl as
Long
the figure,
jump?
not as a figure. No, come on, man, don't bring that.
No,
in.
no. Okay, just in the
Bring in
100.
field events. We're not talking about that.
Just in the
at
just
least
in
stay
the,
on the track.
That's what it is.
I'll say just in the 100. There's no way. Like I put Carl as number 2 behind Bolt all time. Behind Bolt.
Yes.
Oh, you're just a Carl Lewis fan.
Yeah.
I'm not even a Carlos fan like that.
sound like a fan.
I would much
He's just
rather.
saying, like,
You sound
if
like a fan. You put him ahead of
I'm
Justin
actually,
Gatlin.
you know what?
I would only because, all due respect to Ben Johnson, but Carl Lewis has 2 Olympic gold medals.
No, but you put him ahead of Justin Gatlin.
Gatlin is the second greatest American sprinter in the 100-meter dash all
Behind
time.
Carl Lewis?
Carl Lewis won every single 100-meter gold between 1983 and 1991. Every single possible gold. And he set multiple world
I'll
records.
say this. Justin won, how many world championships?
Yes.
He won
2.
05, he won 05 and he won
17.
17.
And he has an Olympic gold in 04.
So he won as a 20-year-old and he
Okay,
won in his mid-30s.
Yes.
Gatlin had a longer career. He
Yes,
took a
yes.
4-year break,
Yes.
came back, won again.
He did not take a 4-year break. The man was suspended. It's not the same.
That's a clarity. But I mean,
this is not Michael
I
Jordan.
agree.
and playing baseball.
Semantics.
This is not the same.
All I'm saying is,
He didn't
you take 4 years where you're not
He
competing.
glossed over.
All right, you take
I gotta
4
check
years.
it
You
into
take 4 years
between
where you're
Ben
not
Johnson,
competing.
But I don't know, but not.
Watch, you take 4 years where you're not competing,
That's true. That's true.
and you come back.
And you're greater when you're back.
You're better when you're back.
Yeah.
You're out there with gray hairs, running 9.7. Okay?
Nah, that is crazy.
You,
He got silver in 2019.
you can't put Carl ahead of that.
We're not. Well, we can, but
No, you can't. You can't.
we're not disputing his greatness.
Gun to your head. Justin Gatlin and Carl Lewis on the
Lewis.
track.
And
If wait,
whoa,
okay,
whoa.
no, this is different though. It's
I'm gonna
different
tell you
eras.
why.
It's
I'm gonna tell
different
you why.
eras.
I'll stand by my answer.
It's different eras.
Because the thing is,
Gun to your head.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Justin Gatlin,
He asked you gun to your head.
Carl
though.
Lewis
Prime
are
Carl Lewis.
running. Yeah, prime.
Yes.
The
I'm
best
taking,
he's ever
I'm
been.
taking
here's-
Carl. I'm
but
taking
here's
Carl.
why.
I think I'm taking Carl by an edge.
All right.
But here's the real reason. The real reason is because when we compare the eras, see, greats in any era, like they would be great in every era. That's true. So the thing is, if you take a guy from Gatlin's a little older than the guys now, but if you take people now and send them back to the 80s, they now have to train, grow up, mature, operate in the 80s. People think you can drop like an athlete from right now, like Christian Miller, high school, to just turn pro, that guy, and just take him and just throw him in a race in the 80s, wearing his Puma kit, his Puma spikes, everything he got.
No, but I think
no,
that's
it
what we
don't
have
work
to do.
like that.
No, I think it
if
is.
he came from,
I think-
if he was coming up with them, flip. If you take them and drop them in this era and say, you now got, we
Give
gonna
Carlos
raise
some
you
max
up
flies.
to give you
I agree.
access to
No,
everything
I
they
agree.
got.
I do agree.
Carl would still, if
I-
he was at the top of that era,
I
he'd be right near.
I
He'd be
agree
right
with,
at the
I
top
agree with
with
that
them now.
aspect. I agree with that aspect. But I think when you do compare in a sport like track and field, because it's so pure, it's just as simple as getting on the track now.
And win.
Now, you can bring all the other factors in if you want to. But if you look at just what they did, I don't see how you could say that Carl Lewis
Do you think
is
winning?
better than
Okay.
Justin
Do you
Gatlin.
think winning matters more than anything?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just let's play this game. It's not a trick. I'm just trying to walk it through. If winning matters more than anything, and we're talking about, is it fair? Can we say winning gold medals in the world and Olympics matters more than anything? Can we say that?
Sure.
Okay, so let's just count them up. In the 100, how many gold medals
I have a way to
in the
nullify
100
this.
does Carl have?
He has 5. 83, 84, 87, 88, 91. It's 5.
Okay, and let's just say Worlds and Olympics are equal just for the purpose of argument, just to make it easier.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question? One question.
He's about to say something crazy.
If we throw Bolt in those eras with Carl, does he have all of those?
Yes. Wait, does Carl
He's
have
saying
all
if
those?
Bolt
Carl,
came
does
to
Carl
that
still have all those medals?
No, Bolt.
Okay, so you have to talk about who these
Because
people
I
are
think,
losing to.
But here's why.
You have to look at
I'm
who.
gonna tell you
You have
why.
to look at
I'm
who
gonna tell
Justin
you
is
why,
losing
though.
to. You
I'm
have to look at who Justin is losing
No,
to.
I'm actually making a slightly different argument
Okay,
using
okay.
what you said.
Okay.
Which is, I compare people in the era that they were in. See, what did you accomplish in your era? What did he accomplish in his era? Because all I care about is what you did to your field.
Okay.
And if you were better against your field than he was against his, you are better. That's a valid argument.
Okay.
So as a result, if we're saying that he has 5
consecutive gold medals in the 100 meter dash.
consecutive golds, and Noah has 2, if he wants to equal him, dumb idiot logic would say he needs to win 3 more. Is that fair?
Wait a minute. 5?
83. Listen, I know you like Ben Johnson.
83.
1983, he won the gold in the 100 and the 4x1 and the long jump. That was his first championships. That was the first world championships.
Okay.
Yep. And you're talking about 200. He was at USA's. He ran 1975.
Okay.
So yes, but in the 100, 5 consecutive. He won everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So you
The
put
87.
5.
And to be fair, I was
like-
yes, 87
we're
and
comparing
88
5
were
to 2.
retroactive.
87, you take.
But how many does Bolt have? Because see, Bolt wins, but he
No,
wins
we're talking about
because of
Gatlin.
his
We're talking about
dominance.
Gatlin. He's talking about Gatlin. He's talking about Gatlin.
He's Bolt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he has more.
Now-
That's why I say Bolt. When you made that question, the reason it was a knee-jerk response to Bolt, it wasn't about the clock. It was he was actually more dominant for a long stretch of time. He collected.
Longer than
I
Bolt?
win. Like, cause I mean, if you win 08, 09, 2012, 2015, 2016.
You know what? I think it's because I
you
don't.
literally count up the math. He did more dominance.
I think it's because I don't erase Ben out of.
That's what I figure. Yes, if you don't erase
tough.
Ben,
Is that 'cause he's Canadian?
87, 88, but it's like,
Is that because he's Canadian?
It's not only because he's Canadian. I just.
but that's just one part.
I know what I know what I saw.
Okay,
It's
okay.
very difficult to unsee
All right,
that.
so let me play this then, because I was looking back at this.
Even if it was 4, Noah's still behind.
But let's play
Yes.
this though, and I want to focus on the 100, but just for the analogy of like you know what you saw. Canada's 4x1. Outside of 2024 and 2022, do you realize that every other medal that they won was a retroactive like upgrade? 2021
Yeah.
at the Olympics,
Yeah.
going back to like 2015
Yeah.
at the World Champ, like
Agree.
everything was an upgrade.
I know.
So-
We can't erase what we saw. I
But
agree.
you acknowledge that.
I acknowledge
Those
that.
medals count.
I acknowledge that they count, but those aren't the medals I brag about. I don't brag about those medals. You'll
the
never hear me
two-
talking about that.
But what if those golds didn't exist?
No, I would look at it the exact same way I look at it.
But you would still be like, we got medals.
No, I wouldn't.
Really?
We do have it, but I wouldn't use them to support an
I want to
argument.
know what the Canadians have to say in the comments.
I wouldn't use it to support an argument.
I think the big problem I have with like Ben Johnson specifically is like he got banned immediately after that 1998, and it was like, bro, he was running 9.7 in the 1980s. That I think is a bigger problem. It would be if Bolt got banned while he was competing. That is what I would see as the equivalent, because he was like so far ahead of the field. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I can't give it to him.
Well, I would say that
He never came back,
The
like-
debate.
Or maybe he did, but
Ben, no, he didn't. It wasn't the same when he came back.
he wasn't
like
the
I'm
same.
saying, like
but
he didn't.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, yeah.
But I'm just saying that Noah, if he wins this year, is in the discussion. We're having the discussion.
But
Aside from that, we were not having this discussion. Carl's clearly ahead of Noah, right?
That's fair.
But I'm just saying
There's a conversation to be had
He
of
wins
like,
another, and even if you bring in the fact that he was never in the picture in the 100 at all.
Justin Gatlin
just
is
came
like
in
the
the picture.
Karl Malone of track.
I think Gatlin
Because
is
Karl Malone was the best player on arguably the best team in an era where Michael Jordan was still existing. So as a result, Justin Gatlin in the Bolt era, it's like, yeah, he probably would have had those extra feathers in his cap, those extra medals, but like he didn't get them. but like that's what Karl Malone goes down as, where it's like we're killing it. He was the MVP 2 years. Those 2 years he loses in the finals to the Bulls, he was MVP.
Yeah. And another discussion for another day, which I know would be an extended discussion, is whether or not Bolt would have attained the dominance he had if Justin didn't have that break.
You mean like if Justin just stayed?
If he had to take the throne from Justin.
Yeah, this is a discussion for another day because the flip side of it is like, would Justin have maintained the dominance he had if he didn't take the break as well? That's a question as well, because when he took his break, Tyson was coming onto the scene. So there's a discussion to be had there as well. But we'll jump back and talk about that one time. All right.
Yeah.
My name is Anderson from The Final Leg.
And I'm Coach Rob from SCA Track and Field. And thank you for watching this segment from The Finish Line.
If you want to know what's really going on at the high school and college level, be sure to subscribe to Coach Rob Track and Field.
And if you want more content on the best track and field athletes in the world, be sure to subscribe to The Final Leg.